Welcome, listeners, to the Lou Stenberg Assessment. I am your host, Lou Louise, and we are about to kick off episode 6 of season 2. I want to start this podcast off. First, I hope everybody had a good weekend. It's just been a lot. Every weekend, it's like by the time the weekend is over, you're either in awe or like you don't even know what the hell happened. Just a lot of chaos been going on, especially around the world with Corona, with the protesting. I don't know what's happening, but it just needs to stop. I need my peace. I mean, I even signed up and I did a deep breathing yoga class with a friend of mine, and that was nice. I think I need more of that. I want to start off this podcast episode by saying how deeply sad I am about the latest victim of America's homegrown domestic terrorist. America has got a new number 2 enemy, and it's no other than one of its own. We have known about these homegrown domestic terrorists for many years, even centuries. These white supremacy groups calling themselves Americans or police officers have declared war against their own fellow American brothers and sisters. They have also declared war against their own government and democracy on U.S. soil. These terrorists have infiltrated southern states. They have surfaced from under the rock, which they have remained hidden from the rest of society for some time now. They continue to breed generation of homegrown terrorists, brainwashed and conditioned to think like themselves, to identify themselves as some type of hero that is cleansing the world of minorities. And when I say minorities, I know you guys like to say people of color. I'll give you a box of crayons, but minorities, anyone who is not, as they call it, true white blood. I don't think these people know their history, because if you did, you would know maybe there's a 1% chance that somebody might be true white blood, but the chances of that is slim to none. It was all immigrants that migrated to the U.S. So I don't know where they get their education from or who's been brainwashing them to think that in this day and age, in this world, that there are people who are just pure, true, blooded Americans. Yeah, no. This is what happens when you are not educated. Or you're brainwashed and you only see things one way. You know, you don't see outside of the box. You only see inside of the box. Well, let me continue. So these people are breeding children who end up turning just like them and wreak havoc, who turns... So they're breeding children, which they really shouldn't be breeding. Nobody wants to continue that generation. Maybe they do, but the rest of the world and society don't want you to breed. So they continue breeding generation of homegrown terrorists, brainwashing and conditioning them to think of themselves as some type of hero. Like I said, I don't know whose hero they are, but they're not our hero. If they want to be Hitler's hero, they should go and join Hitler in the grave and be heroes with him, because Hitler was nobody's hero. Hitler was a crazy man. So they're breeding their children, conditioning them to learn hatred and sadistic rage that will fester within these children until they're adults. And then you have the adults acting like children again, because this is where we are right now with this whole killing or murdering of minorities. So their latest victim was Mr. Jacob Blake from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Mr. Blake, like many other Black Americans, have become a victim to the cowardly and inhumane white supremacy homegrown terrorist group that have declared war against the United States and the American people. Thankfully, Mr. Blake survived his vicious attack. Unfortunately, he is paralyzed from the waist down. I'm still trying to grasp and understand the deeply disturbing events that took place on August 23rd of 2020 and the events that played out after the attempted murder of Mr. Blake. Mr. Blake displayed signs of disobedience, as you can see on the video, by walking away from, I'm going to call them the homegrown terrorists dressed as police officers. But when does walking away warrant for an officer to draw his service weapon and fire 7 times at close range at a suspect in the back? When do we start shooting people in the back? Is that part of your new training? And then the union, the police union stands there and defends and but they don't even know who they're defending. Have you done your research? Do you know what is truly happening? Do you know that the Aryan Brotherhood have infiltrated the same police department that you're trying to defend, that you are so adamant about not doing this and doing that? I don't think these union people even give a damn about the police officers. They do give a damn about the money they receive every month as part of union dues. Because if you give a damn about how these officers look to the rest of society, you would look further into why, and I know you have the power, you would look further into why this is happening and why are police officers' names being tarnished by domestic homegrown white supremacy, because that's exactly what has infiltrated your police department. I don't care what anybody else says. It is what it is. So you would look into that instead of trying to divide even further the police department and civilians. So Mr. Blake, obviously, as I said, he showed signs of disobedience. He was walking away from the police officers. I don't know if they were having a conversation. He was probably running for his life, because you know how that goes. Did Mr. Blake resist arrest? If so, was he read his Miranda rights before he started walking away? No, I doubt that. Did you see Mr. Blake at any time carrying a concealed firearm? Or at any point, did he draw his weapon at the 2 homegrown terrorists dressed as police officers? Did he try to disarm the police officers? Oh, I'm going to call them homegrown terrorists. So did he try to disarm the homegrown terrorist? Did he try to disarm them and take away their service weapon? No. He was walking away from them. He didn't want to be bothered by them. He probably thought, no matter what I do, they're going to kill me. And they try to. At any time, at any point in time, did the 2 homegrown terrorists dressed as police officers, and I'm going to keep saying that because I need to stress that, feel threatened for their life, as it clearly shows in the video footage that they were the aggressors following behind Mr. Jacob Blake. So he was trying to get away from them. And I would have probably recommended the same thing, because you're just down south. You get pulled over these days. It doesn't matter what you do. You got to run for your life, and it shouldn't be that way. And hopefully the Black American community will stop running. And, you know, they always say an eye for an eye does not equal justice. But when is enough enough? So protesting and it's great. That's part 1 of the struggle. there has to be a cohesive part two of the struggle. So they have to go hand in hand. So you have the protest and you have citizens arrest. If George Zimmerman can feel threatened by someone and shoots them dead, if a police officer, but not really a police officer, a domestic homegrown terrorist, if a black man can feel threatened by someone he doesn't know, whether it's a police officer or whether it's really a domestic homegrown terrorist who have infiltrated the police department, what do? You got to defend yourself, fight or flight, kill or be killed. I think it's time now. We've sat down. Someone gets murdered because it's murder, because they never got their day in court. These homegrown domestic terrorists dressed as police officers are being the judge, the jury, and the executioner. So if you feel threatened and you don't know what type of police officer you are encountering, then what do? Because you have to defend yourself. And there is self-defense laws that says, you murder somebody, you were defending yourself. So I think black people need to start using turn that table around and start using the self-defense law, because your life is in danger. You just don't know who's pulling you over down south. And if you feel threatened, it's self-defense. I'm just saying. I don't know. If it was me, I'm sorry. I would be in fight and flight mode. You're going to pull me over. It doesn't even matter anymore if it's in a public place. You're stepping on people's necks. You're shooting them in the back. Well, I think it's time that it doesn't matter what type of citizen, but I think it's time that minorities start using the law that is not being applied to you. You should turn that table around and start using it and applying it back to them, because this is the only way we can solve what is going on. You can't keep protesting and then the next day another person gets murdered by these domestic homegrown terrorists dressed as police officers, and then you go back in the street again and protest, and then they do it again. Well, when is enough enough? Hello, when is enough enough? Black Lives Matter. What are you going to protest for the rest of 2020, 2021? No, you have to start educating yourselves how to use the law that is against you right now. Turn that table around and use that law to benefit you. Wake up. So thank God I live in the North, and police officers down here are the real deal. Some of them are smart ass, but I have to say the police officers up north are the real deal. They are nice. Don't get me wrong, not everybody is nice. There's people who could be really assholes, but the police officers here, they care about the people up north. They want you off the streets, not because they want to harm you. They actually want to see you do good with your life and they actually are nice people, and they really care. So I thank you, police officers up north, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, but especially like Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Maine, New Hampshire. These police officers are the best. They really are. I have nothing bad to say about them. They do their job. They just care about the people. And they would never shoot somebody in the back. I've never even heard of such horrible, horrible, inhumane behaviors. So, yay, police department up north. Keep up the good work, honestly. So back to what I was saying. So if we answer no to all of these questions, then there was no law and order, no serve and protect. These were not brothers. These were not your brothers in blues. So when the police department is trying to defend them, no, they're not your brothers in blues. These were clearly domestic target, malice attack on another American citizen by two homegrown domestic terrorists dressed as police officers with zero reasonable grounds for disarming their service weapons. There are many twists and turns to this story. The next unsettling events after the shooting of Mr. Blake was what happened during the protest on the street of Wisconsin. During the protest, it is alleged that a teenager from Antioch, Wisconsin, by the name of Kyle Rittenhouse, freely walked in the midst of the protest with a semi-automatic rifle. He was attacked by a protester, but arrived at the protest with a semi-automatic rifle. So if you arrive at a protest with a semi-automatic rifle strapped around your chest, and this is supposed to be a protest, so what were your intentions when you left your house with that semi-automatic rifle? What was the intent? Because it wasn't to do good. Rifles don't give somebody life. It takes away a person's life when it's used. Do you just walk around the street with a loaded gun in your hand, a loaded rifle? Shit, we all should be walking around the street with a loaded rifle in our hands. Since the the domestic terrorists dressed as police officers, are killing us off one by one. So, hey, everybody, if this sucker can get away with walking around with a loaded rifle, automatic, semi-automatic, but a person walking away from a situation gets shot 7 times in the back, what is wrong with this picture? What is wrong with the whole situation? And when do you get into that fight or flight mode? Because I think it's time, minorities, you need to get into that fight or flight mode, kill or be killed. This is the pressure we have been pushed. We have been pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. Well, right now our backs are against the wall and nothing is being done. Everyone is talking about it, but nothing is getting done. And I don't condone violence at all. But enough is enough. A human being can only take so much before they cannot take any more. So you keep pushing and you keep pushing, and the end result is never good. Here's a guy, a white male, strapped a semi-automatic to his chest, and he's walking through public, walking past the police, walking next to the police, and nothing next to the deputies. And they pat him at one time, like having conversations. Is this normal? The governor, the mayor of Wisconsin, of that area, should be fired. Those deputies should never be allowed to practice law enforcement. Never. That should be their punishment. Get rid of all of them. And I hope the citizens in Wisconsin sort of see what is wrong with this whole event and this whole scenario, this tragic event, and not vote for these people anymore. Get rid of them. They need to go. And not only did they put your state on display of racism, because you can't even deny it. I mean, yeah, I would tag Wisconsin as a state that is racist. Whether half the state is racist, whether half of them are not, I honestly would put a stamp. If I had a stamp, you would get the racism stamp, because it's unacceptable. just if one event happened and it was out of their control is different. But now you have law enforcement deputies who are condoling such horrible behavior by talking to somebody, and they were aware that this guy had just shot 2 people. But what do you care, huh? When you're racist, you don't give a damn. So you're having conversations with this young man after he just murdered somebody. Yeah. So, yeah, Wisconsin, you get a stamp for your racism. Sorry for anybody who's from Wisconsin. But yeah, Antioch, I should say, yeah, you get a stamp from me for being racist. You're a racist area within Wisconsin, and everybody should be fired. Everyone, the mayor and the governor especially, they've got to go. And the deputies who trained you, You're talking to a alleged serial killer because he killed 2 people, and thank God the 3rd person didn't die. And he's walking right behind you. I'm going to put up the image right now. And you're okay with it. I mean, you're just okay. But you can shoot somebody in the back that's walking away from you. Ay, ay, ay. I know, I love saying that. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so let's continue. It's great to protest, and I think it's great. It's unrest. It gives President Trump administration, it gives you an insight to President Trump administration. Because he's done nothing. He could care less, and it shows. Every time there's a problem, I'm going to call this. He's a president of war, and this is the country we're in right now, a country of war. He is a divider, and he loves war. But it's not war against our enemies. It's war against his own people. So you might think differently, but it is what it is. I mean, for peeps' sake, look what is happening around you. So let's get back to Rittenhouse. So he leaves, of course, his house with the intent of doing harm, obviously. And he kills 2 people and injures 1. So some of the bystanders were able to flag down a police cruiser, alerting them about Rittenhouse and the injuries of the protesters that were shot. What do you think the police officers should have done or had done? What do you think their protocol should have been when 2 people are deceased and 1 is injured and a madman with a semi-automatic rifle is on the loose? You would think perhaps call for backup, stay with the injured until backup arrives, or at least until the ambulance arrives, while a APB or a BOLO alert goes out to find and detain the madman with the gun. But instead, what actually happened, the officer listened to the complaint and drove away. No one searched for the alleged suspect immediately, and the alleged suspect was not arrested at all. Not till a week later, following the shooting and the death of 2 unarmed protesters. During Mr. Rittenhouse arrest, was he, I don't even want to address him by his last name, Mr. He doesn't even deserve the respect. So I'm going to call him Kyle, just his first name. Kyle was arrested a week later. He was not beaten up by the police. He was not shot by the police. He was not physically harmed or injured. No, no, no. There was not even a single scratch on his body when they took him in. But after the shooting of Mr. Blake by the use of excessive force, he was taken to the hospital where I presume he might have had some type of surgery to save his life since he was shot 7 times in the back. But Are you ready for this one? This inhumane, racist horseshit I'm about to tell you. So the same people who were charged in that godforsaken state of Wisconsin, deputies were placed outside the recovery room. The very same homegrown terrorists dressed as police officers that put him where he was in that hospital room in the first place, now were guarding the room. So you just shot somebody 7 times in the back, and then you put the same people outside of the person's room. Are they there to finish him off? Because that just doesn't make sense. They were placed there, these deputies, because allegedly Mr. Blake, who just got out of major surgery, he had an assault charge pending from 3 months prior, who was also allowed to roam freely for 3 months while waiting a court proceeding / hearing, probably, because the law in this country allows everyone a day in court to have a fair trial, regardless of innocence or guilt. You can be released on bond to roam freely until your hearing or your trial begins. Other times you remain in jail with no bond. So was there a warrant out for Mr. Blake's arrest when he was pulled over by those officers and shot? Those domestic terrorists dressed as police officers, I should say. And is this the new way of arresting people? Shoot them 7 times in the back so they're stripped of their due process rights. I guess Mr. Blake needed a babysitter in his hospital room. You had him handcuffed and restrained for a week following his shooting and his surgery, a major surgery that he wouldn't need if you hadn't put him in the hospital in the first place. He is paralyzed from the waist down. He is in pain. He's probably very uncomfortable in that hospital bed, and he's in shock that now he will never be able to walk. And you have him handcuffed to a bed after you shot him in the back 7 times. That is why I said these people from Antioch, Wisconsin, you are racist SOBs. And the mayor, the governor, the deputies that were there in the hospital room and the protesting, I know you're just doing your job, you're following your chain of command, but you all need to be fired. The governor, the mayor, the deputies following orders from the higher up should be ashamed of themselves and should be forced to resign. Titled stripped of their power and their titles. These folks are incapable of doing their jobs and should not be paid by taxpayer dollars for their incompetency, their lack of human decency. I really don't give a damn where they go as long as they go somewhere and take their disgraceful behaviors with them. I don't think they should be entitled to a pension, any benefits, nothing. Strip them of. Why would taxpayer want to pay these people for being racist and not being able to do their job? No, the mayor, he's got to go. The governor, he's got to go. Sorry, does not cut it. You allow this to happen. This is why you have that power. You can't say, I didn't know. Well, this is why when you become a governor, when you become a mayor of a city or a town, that responsibility is on you. What happens in your city or town, it is 100% on you, because that is the responsibility you are taking. You are promising to keep and protect the people safe. When you can't do your job, you should have some decency, because it's quite shameful. You should have a little bit decency and step down and resign. Have some pride. I get so emotional with this because it's just it just doesn't make sense that we keep doing this. And thank God it's happening down south, because if it happened here north, this shit would not happen. It would not be flying very well with the people that live up north. You don't go around and shoot people in the back. You don't go around and start shooting people here. And we handle ours down here. It would never happen. So yeah, keep it south, because I don't know what's going on with the minority people in the south, because their backs are against the wall and they're doing nothing. But up north here, we don't play that game. Yeah, we love our police officers. Our police officers love us. And that's how it is. That's how we do it. We will be the first one to tell you where to go if that shit ever came down this way. So, or up this way, up north. So keep your murders and killing in the south, because it doesn't fly in the north. I'm not sure what advice I would give to someone like Mr. Blake or the other, or any Black American living in these Nazi American states, southern states. I call them Nazi states. Because if you resist arrest, they'll murder you. If you don't resist arrest, they'll still murder you. So my Black brothers and sisters, I think it's time for you to start exercising your self-defense laws. Kill or be killed. Fight or flight. The choice is yours. But you decide. Enough is enough. What are you going to protest for the next 5 years? Every day? Don't you have to work? Don't you have to take care of your family? You cannot protest every single day, my Black brothers and sisters. It's good that you're protesting, because it's calling attention to the shameful behavior that is existing in America. But it's not stopping the senseless murders of these domestic homegrown terrorists, or Nazis, I should call them. It is not stopping these homegrown domestic terrorists disguised as police officers that have infiltrated police departments down south. So if it's not working, you're protesting, and they're still murdering your people, what do you do? Because your back is against the wall. It is time to react and stop walking the streets. Well, continue walking the streets, I guess. But when is enough enough, I guess I should ask. When is enough enough? Have you not had enough? They continue to kill you one at a time down south and get away with murder. And the law that's supposed to defend all of us is defending them, and it's not defending you. So why don't you turn that table around and have that law, the same law they use against you, use it against them? I'm just saying. It would never fly in the north. We don't roll that way. The north, no. One thing about living up north is we just don't. The police officers are super nice. They're like, as we would say, wicked kind. They're wicked awesome. They're just good. They're good police officers. They love their jobs. They love helping people. They treat you like your family. They literally treat you like your family. That's how they are. And I love them for that. And everybody up north, some people might not like the police. Well, it's usually the really scummy criminals that don't like the police. And you know what? The police up north deserve to keep harassing them, because they're probably drug dealers, gang activities, and your asses need to be harassed every bloody day to get off the streets. But the rest of everybody else, the police is really good. So don't hate me, because I live up north and our po-po are really awesome. So let's get back to this. Here is my assessment. No one is saying blue lives don't matter, but blue lives and Nazi lives have intertwined. Somehow they have. These Nazi homegrown domestic terrorists are serial murderers and not your typical brothers in blue. They are not the law-abiding officers who took an oath to serve and protect. Their oath is to the Aryan Brotherhood, to Hitler's regime of destruction and mayhem. America has chosen to accept these homegrown domestic terrorists as one of their own, hiding them behind its amendments. The United States have chosen to undermine the death of every soldier who lost their life in Germany and every human being that was burned alive at the concentration camps under Hitler's regime. America has chosen to forget once again about its history, about one of its greatest enemies, about Nazi Germany, who once declared war against the United States on December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor, World War II. America has allowed one of our greatest enemies to brainwash the minds of our people who have now brought 1941 Germany to America. Living in secret within the southern states of the United States, these wannabes have joined and infiltrated police departments throughout the South and now are murdering U.S. citizens one at a time on U.S. soil. These vigilantes are not your true brothers in blue. They do not wear your uniform with honor and privilege. It is worn as a Halloween costume for their devilish, sick, and diabolic Nazi wannabe behaviors. Don't allow the uniform to fool you. They were our enemies in 1941, and they are our enemies in 2020. That was a lot, but I don't condone violence at all. Oh God, I love my peace. I love my yoga meditation class. I live for it. But enough is enough. A human being can only be pushed so far. And how far does your tolerance go? Because for the last, I don't know how many years now, you have been these homegrown domestic terrorists that the president does not acknowledge, does not want to talk about, but the only thing he can say is, we're going to bring the National Guard. We're going to bring this one. We're going to have law and order. Well, the more you push your people, Mr. President, because you really shouldn't be a president, the more you push your free-willed upon the U.S. citizens, the more they're going to push back. Don't you get it? Did you not go to school? You push? Do you not have children? I mean, did you not raise your own children? You push, and what does the child do? They push back, they push back. I just don't know how his thought process is, but the president needs to acknowledge what is happening. It's not going to stop until you acknowledge. Like the coronavirus. It doesn't stop, Mr. President, because you don't want to say the name of the virus. The murders won't stop until you do something. You're more worried about law and order with the protesters, trying to silence them. But while the bodies continue to, the dead bodies continue to rise in your country, both corona, both killing minorities, these homegrown terrorists. So I think the American people can actually, I think they're about had enough. They're tired of seeing their children, protest because they want change. This is their family member. They can relate to their family member. You can't even relate to the people that put you in power. So I think America is tired. This is not what Americans are about. They're not about causing harm and segregation and war. We don't want war. We want peace for our family. And you want war. You're obsessed with calling in this, and I'm going to do this. That's not who we are. That's who you are, President Trump, but that's not who we are. And I'm glad the protest is happening. I would like to see it continue, but I would like to see something else. All these big Black Lives Matter groups or different groups, I would like to see you guys also turn the table around, sort of study the American law. So if the law applies to one group, well, then you need to turn the table and make that law apply to you. And there are ways of doing it. So there are defense laws. If video footage is showing somebody walking away from these homegrown terrorists dressed as police officers, and the individual is still shot 7 times in the back, well, you know what? You got to defend yourself at this point. So your defense laws should be coming into play around this time, and you should use it to your benefit. You got to defend yourself. If somebody's going to kill you, if I'm afraid my life is in danger and somebody has been knocking off Black people and I get pulled over by the same people, yeah, I'm probably going to defend myself. I'm sorry. I'm afraid for my life. I need to defend myself. I'm in a fight and flight mode. I am definitely would be in that mode. Kill or be killed. It is what it is. So I don't condone violence, but at some point, enough is enough. It's enough. So I'm going to end this episode here. We're going to have Lamont B in the studio with me soon. So I think he's coming in this week. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have a fabulous week. I hope there's no more killing. I hope nobody is walking around with a semi-automatic rifle. I mean, one can only hope. Cuckoo. That's what we live in a cuckoo world. There's more out and less in. There need to be more in and less out. Yeah. All right. I am your host, Lou Louise. I am signing off. I have things to do. I will see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. Be safe.